what would you be willing to die for? Who are the people? What are the things in your life that you would willingly lay your own life down to preserve? There's the classic answers like family or liberty. Those pretty much spring to mind immediately. As Americans, as human beings acting out the parts of, the dusty old play on the slowly revolving stage of the world, we drift through the pages of a script filled with heroic imaginings based on the sum total of our thriving and God-blessed history. So in short, the call of liberty has not died out upon the winds of change. It's not perished entirely upon the lips of a new generation arriving to replace the old one. It's not voyaged into that undiscovered country of death just yet, but it is weakened. It wheezes, it gasps, it coughs in our collective consciousness, the fire that once roared inside of an endangered ember glowing against the encroaching blackness of night. So I ask you again, what's worth dying for? What is worth dying for? So when you say family, I believe you because you're human and you're decent, and it's wired deeply into us to be willing to lay down our lives for those whom we love. But when you say liberty, I wonder, do we truly know what that word means anymore? Have we lived so long with less and less freedom every day we wake up in the morning that we can no longer truly remember what it means to really be free? Now, the good news might be that all is not lost, and there's still time to pull ourselves back from the brink of destruction as a nation and as the most powerful force for good the world has ever known in history. But the bad news might be that we, like the frog sitting in the water that is incrementally turned up to boiling, simply do not see our freedom eroding all around us. And patriotism is great, but patriotism for its own sake is a nearly useless shell around whatever's underneath it. Many people in the Soviet Union were patriotic. Many people in Nazi Germany were patriotic. The list goes on and on. You see where I'm going. Now, in the United States of America, our patriotism will someday mean nothing at all, as it will merely be the shroud behind which the true face of evil will reside, devouring the minds and souls of the next generation and the next after that. So this is the fate that awaits us if we don't throw a rope around this country and steer it back in the direction from whence it came. So, if freedom is worth dying for, what then is freedom? Now, that sounds like a stupid question, but indulge me. What really is freedom, this thing that you ostensibly are prepared to die for? Is it merely the proposition that the government doesn't exist to tell you what to do? I say no. Freedom isn't merely a concept floating around in the ether, you understand. It's ideological and philosophical and even spiritual to me, because most certainly the God who created the heavens and the earth and all that filled it gave us our freedom. Always remember that point. And when the Declaration of Independence says that all men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, never forget that is our founding fathers declaring that liberty comes from God, not from the government. But freedom is also experiential. And it's that point that I want to really drive home here. You can experience freedom in both the passive and the active sense. It is what permits you to choose your own adventure in this life and then to pursue it to the best of your abilities. It's not merely the thing that gives you comparatively little fear that your government is going to imprison you for no reason, which in many places in the world throughout all of history would be considered an extraordinary luxury. But it's also the thing inside of you that can look out the window at your car and realize, hey, I could just hop in that bastard, hit the gas, and go wherever the hell I want to go and do whatever the hell I want to do. It's also the force in your life that makes you appreciate your responsibilities, and make no mistake, we do have those. As Uncle Ben always points out to Peter Parker shortly before he got shot, before he dies from being shot, he says, with great power comes great responsibility. And that responsibility, like the freedom that necessarily binds to it, comes from God. So let me sum it up here. I want you to walk away from this little fireside chat we're having with a renewed sense of jaw-dropping awe at the freedom you have as an American. I want you to take time today and in the days to come to marvel at how that freedom permeates your entire existence and the existence of those around you. How it's there even when you're not thinking about it, constantly a factor in everything you do, everything you say, and perhaps everything you think. And on the heels of that, remember that it absolutely is not free. The phrase is a cliche, I know, but it got that way because it's true. And hey, I don't want you to die for freedom any more than I want to myself, but we do have to be willing to. And in the meantime, let's take this high-powered appreciation to its logical conclusion and try to work as a force for good in the world and in our country so that the true freedom will last for as long as it possibly can. I was thinking the other day, as we see so many liberties and so many freedoms that are being taken away, or at least I should say overreach that's happening that limits our ability. Like what, Chad? What freedoms are being taken away? Well, you can't say just anything you want to say anymore without some kind of consequence being thrown your way in the world in which we live. And that's certain words are now. I mean, last week we talked about certain words making it onto the FBI list for extremist vocabulary. That's dumb. I mean, that's dumb. The idea that some word that I use, some word that I say to transfer a thought from my brain to yours by using the tool of language is somehow criminalizing me for using a certain way to describe it, that's absolutely insane. So we see certain freedoms that are being stripped. I mean, the idea that the Second Amendment is under attack in the way that it is. And I just, all I've ever known, just like everybody else, I mean, any person in any country who's grown up in their country, they can say, well, this is all I've ever known. This is the only way of life I've ever known. But the way of life that I have grown very accustomed to is one in which I can think and speak freely, where I can act freely, where I can, behave in a certain way. And don't misunderstand me. I still believe that no matter what your life choice is, as long as you're not harming another person by your actions, I believe you should be free to do that. And I've always held to that, whatever you want to call it, if it's a libertarian value, whatever. I just think that, whatever you choose to do in this life, as an American, I believe you should be free to do that unless you're harming another individual.